Okay, so to start off with, I'm going to train the willing workers. Okay? Right, can you say yes, sir? We've got our high-tech selection device. What I want you to do is to place the container just as I have here. Place your left hand in the middle on the green bit. Then taking the high-tech selection device in your right hand, only at the front, then run it through like that. And the aim is to make sure all the holes are filled. Okay? So I've done this quite a bit, so I'm pretty good, I have to say. We've got some nasty red beads which we get from our supplier. We don't like red beads. Our customers don't like red beads. Selected your beads in your batch of 50. Then I want you to bring it over here and show it to the 2 quality inspectors. They will count to see whether you've got any errors, any red beads. Okay? And then they will confirm to the chief quality inspector whether there are any errors. Okay? Then the chief quality inspector will let the accountant know whether you've had any errors. Okay, is that right? Okay, so you write down any errors. Okay. So is that clear to everyone? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, good. Good. Okay. Beads like this. That too. Okay. That's it. Yep. That's it. Okay. Yep. Make sure it's not shaking too hard. Oh. Hit it flat. Okay, now show it to the quality inspector. Okay. How many red ones?
Хорошо.
О, какая.
Какие выводы можно сделать?
15.
Куда идем?
Попробуй, да, вот так вот внутри там болтать.
Вытряхивайте.
Мы контроль качества.
Шесть.
6. Okay. Five. Your performance is reversing, so I'm going to have to let you go. You can go and sit down now.
Yes.
Okay. So that means the first question. Was it, say, fair for me to get rid of Evgeny as a worker?
Несправедливо, потому что по результатам 4 дней у него результат был лучше, чем в Игре, например.
4 работника было и, по сути, 4 административных работника, руководителя, которые наблюдали за процессом. И я думала, что постепенно Тим уволит вообще всех работников, но административная часть останется. И будет один работать за 4.
Можно было, вот, например, 2 контролера складывали, точнее, по сути, только считали. Если бы ребята бы складывали в эту чашку, а потом контролеры с этой чашки откладывали, уже отдавали клиентам, там был бы результат выше и количество вот этих красных было бы гораздо меньше.
Я думаю, что можно было еще по результатам первых 2 дней высчитать средний KPI. То есть у нас он стоял там 4 допустимых, да, красных шарика, и можно было перезаключить контракт сразу с партнером на большее количество красных шариков допустимых.
В процессе можно было бы, так как это, судя по всему, случайный выбор, сколько выпадет, можно было вытаскивать и обратно скидывать до тех пор, пока мы не получим результат с наименьшим числом красных шариков. Это один вариант. Второй вариант — это все-таки поменять инструмент. И я, как производитель таких девайсов, мог было предложить устройство, которое бы отсеивало красные шарики.
В части того, что изначально не давали правила. На самом деле нас никто ни в чем не ограничивал. Вот у нас в HR есть тренера. Вот я рекомендую вот всем заказать. Есть вот Евгения. Очень классный тренинг есть у нее, когда вы собираете по картинке из конструктора, из лего определенную машинку. Как бы все начинают собирать и видят, или домик, да, там. Все начинают собирать, но при этом никто у нее не попросил тех деталей, которые есть на картинке. То есть это опять-таки шаблонное, стандартное мышление, а нам не говорили. Таковы никто и не спросил, да? На самом деле мы сами себя ограничиваем в этом. Нас никто ни в чем не ограничивает, по большому счету.
Вопрос, правильно ли вы сделали вводик Евгения? Думаю, что нет, потому что от работников здесь ничего не зависит. Практически случайность. И сколько бы они ни старались, они ничего не сделали. То есть здесь напрашивается, наверное, второй вопрос, это нужно было менять процессы. То есть таким образом у нас два лишних инспектора, которые просто стояли. Наверное, после того, как первая и вторая итерация прошла, нужно было либо инспекторам, которые должны были за качество отвечать, менять процесс, либо там руководителям. Но работник здесь, по статистике, по данным, если смотреть, то это практически там случайно.
Статистика вещь упрямая, да, то есть вот она показывает, что у людей есть возможность улучшать.
This is a system that we have, and if you remember back to yesterday, we talked quite a bit about making decisions and where we are right now as an organisation, and even where we are as individuals. It's a sum of all the decisions that we've made. But I also said that when you think about decisions, there are some things that we can control, and there are some other things that we have to react to. And even though I created a situation where it looked as though our willing workers had control over how they did, even allowing them to manipulate a little bit. Ultimately, this was a demonstration where our willing workers really had no control over the outcome. It was one of those situations where it didn't really make a difference what decisions they made because it was outside their control. And so our little exercise is reflected here in the system. And what I did, and this is what most managers do, is that I focused on, when there was a problem, I focused on the most obvious area for that problem, and that was these workers. So I told them how to do it, pick up the high-tech selector device in your right hand, use your left hand in the middle, scoop from the front. So I trained them all, and when something went wrong, my immediate reaction was, it's a problem with my workers. And first of all, I tried to create an incentive, giving them money. I thought that maybe if I give them some sort of incentive, they're going to try hard. When that didn't work, I ended up getting rid of Yevgeny. Because to me, as the manager, that's where the problem was. And many managers, that's the immediate reaction when something goes wrong. And one of the things that we hear quite a bit in Kazakhstan is when something goes wrong, people say someone must be punished. And that's what I did there. I was just reflecting that sort of mentality. Something has gone wrong here. We've got our red beads. Customer doesn't like red beads. It's going wrong. Someone's got to be punished for that. But when you step back a little bit, and some of you have already got here, this is our whole system. And what I was doing was focusing on just one part of that system as being the problem, when in fact they weren't the problem at all. As some of you observed, it really was the number of red beads in the system. So what I didn't tell anyone was that in our system, we've got around 4,000 beads from our supplier. That's how many beads in total there are here, 4,000. And approximately 800 of those beads are red. Okay, so 800 out of 4,000, what does that make? 20%. Yeah, so 20% of our beads are red. Okay? So, even though I allowed the workers to manipulate a little bit as we went on, essentially it didn't really matter what they did, because in this container, 20% of the beads were red. And when they stuck it in, it was completely, well, pretty much random process, how many beads they picked up, how many red beads they picked up. So if we've got 20% of our beads that are red here in this container, and we've got a high-tech selector device which picks 50 at a time, on average, how many red ones should we get? Yes, yeah, 10. Okay. So on average, they should be picking up around 10 per time on average. So sometimes they get more. If you look at the results, 11, 16, 13, if we did it enough, then you would see that it would average out around about 10 per time. Okay. So how good a manager was I in going to the customer and saying, we can deliver 4 or less red beads per batch? Was that a good decision by me? If on average they're going to be picking up 10, and I've said to the customer, we can deliver 4, our systems drive our behaviour. And so even though it may have felt that, okay, if we manipulate it around here, I'm going to get a better result. Ultimately, 20% of the beads in these containers were red. And so that's what's going to drive the result. It didn't matter what our willing workers really did, how this is set out. And so the way that it's set out is, this is really measuring the performance of the system, rather than just saying, let's measure the performance of our workers, who are just one aspect of the system. This is actually looking at how is our system performing. And so what we've done here is simply to say, on the y-axis here, going up, we've just recorded how many errors did we get this time. But down below, we're not saying who was responsible for that error, because they weren't responsible for the error. All it was is an event. Okay? So the first event was, it was 11, and then there was 16. So what we're doing here is measuring actually the performance of the system without focusing on the workers. We're just looking at the total system performance here. And you can see it's much clearer here. You can see that if 10 is going to be our average, you can see that there's variation around that 10. And if we kept going, then over time the average would become 10. They're typically not the problem. So Deming makes this comment that when you do have problems, rather than just blame the people in the system, someone's got to be punished. You want to reflect on the fact that around 85%, generally speaking, in his experience, I would say probably higher than 85%. Generally speaking, most problems are caused by the system rather than the individual. Most individuals actually want to do a good job, system as it is right now. So collect some data. Okay? Collect some data, not just looking at worker performance like we did in that exercise, but track the performance of the whole system. So you have to try and understand the whole system rather than just focusing on one aspect of the system, which is the worker. Okay? So track the system performance, work out what's going to be a good measure of system performance here, and then track that. Use data so that you can understand this is how our system is performing. And then if you work out, well, this system is never going to achieve what we want to achieve, then you've got some options. One may be we're going to scrap this system completely, or maybe there is an opportunity for us to improve this system. So if we go back to our red beads thing, what we could be doing if I had been a better manager and I had tracked our system this way, I would have worked out that, and if I'd listened to my workers as well, I would have worked out that we're never going to achieve a limit of 4 the way it is right now. Why are we getting so many red beads? And so if I'd been a bit smarter, then I could have then started to investigate why are we getting these red beads, worked out that this was to do with our supplier. I could have gone to the supplier and said, we're getting way too many red beads here. You know, what's going on? We could have asked them to investigate. So then we have some options. So one option that you guys came up with is, rather than having the quality inspectors just counting, they could have been taking out the red beads themselves and replacing them with white. And then our customer would have been happy. So we could have done that. But if we had worked with our supplier, we could have asked them, why are you giving us so many red beads? We don't want red beads. So they could have then worked out what was causing the red beads. And ideally, what we would have liked is not to have any red beads coming through from our supplier at all. We just wanted white beads.